So I think about how, for instance, the view from our mind, from the Okanagan mind, the view of land has more to do with the idea of how things interact at different levels in nature around us, and how knowledge and learning has to do with understanding what those interactions are and how they, in a loop, return back to us in terms of how they impact us, and understanding those as systems. And I know Fritjof is going to talk a lot more about that, so I'm not, and very much in a much more knowledgeable way than I can talk about it. But it's very clear to me that learning in relation to that process, and learning from the natural world, requires understanding systems and understanding how systems work and how systems loop back to yourself, even though you might seem to be removed from nature and you might seem to be removed from community. In other words, you might seem to be an individual, but you really are not. And you really are much more integrally and interconnected with those things, and that the wisest learning process is to understand what those connections are and where we have to maintain and sustain our integrity in terms of transferring that learning to our students. And I think in a lot of ways, when we, as I'm speaking for the Okanagan Indigenous people, in terms of the way we think about land, we never have ever thought of it, I don't think, as anything static, as anything physical. We've always thought about it as a process of interactions, a process of chains, and a process that's ongoing. As you know, you can talk about the land and all the things that populate the land, but you actually have to understand that for us, that in any of the 4 seasons, you have a whole different set of critters that populate the land, or that are alive or awake, or that are doing different things at different times. So it never is static. It always has a whole different set of things going on as a part of life. So understanding those systems and understanding and being part of that does something in terms of how and displays and gives knowledge in terms of how systems work, and how systems work really well. Because nature's been working really well for a long time. And so one of the things that we think about as Okanagan people is how those systems should inform us in terms of our interactions and the principles that we need to think about and adhere to. So in the process of learning in our society, one of the things that we have come to understand is that there always needs to be that connection from the individual, and the connection to the family, and the connection to community, and the connection and how that intersects with the natural world. That there needs to be a clear understanding of how that system works, and there needs to be a clear understanding of how we as individuals are a part of that. And so the learning process is a multi-layered learning process that is modeled by experience, that is embedded in the language, that is embedded in the ceremonial process. So a ceremony isn't just about me and my connection to what I believe in as the creator, but ceremonial process is about the understanding that if I act in an ethical way and acknowledge something on the land as a being an essential part of me, and being an essential part of that mystery of creation, that ceremony is a process of learning and embedding that ethic and that idea